Today, we're unpacking the massive pendulum swing of US-China relations. We're going to cover the absolute must-know historical context that you, as a modern business executive, really need to assess today's macro-level supply chain and market risks. Because, let's face it, you simply can't navigate tomorrow without a solid grip on how we actually got to today.
To set the stage and show you just how high the stakes are right now, think about this quote. When the leaders of the world's two superpowers met in Beijing, Chinese President Xi Jinping actually posed a direct question to US President Donald Trump. He brought up the Thucydides trap. Now, if you're not familiar, that's an ancient Greek concept about the inevitable tension that erupts when a rising power challenges an established one. Bringing this up immediately signaled that the entire nature of global competition has fundamentally shifted.
So, here is our roadmap for today. We're going to cover 1. Opening the diplomatic door. 2. The market reform era. 3. The WTO economic boom. 4. Expanding global influence. 5. Assertive diplomacy and power. And finally 6. The Thucydides trap.
Starting off with Section 1, Opening the diplomatic door.
Our story really kicks off in the 1970s. We go from completely stalled back-channel talks in Warsaw in 1970 to a totally surprising breakthrough. The US national ping pong team, who were just competing over in Japan, got this unexpected invitation to Beijing in April 1971. This ping pong diplomacy literally opened the door for Henry Kissinger to take a secret flight from Islamabad to Beijing just a few months later. And that secret trip laid the essential groundwork for President Richard Nixon's historic, world-changing summit in February 1972.
Okay, so what was the immediate fallout here? For global trade, the bottom line is that these diplomatic maneuvers directly ended the US trade embargo on China. Plus, the United Nations voted to replace Taiwan with the People's Republic of China, which gave them a powerful seat on the Security Council and completely legitimized China's global standing. It all culminated in the Shanghai Communique, setting up the framework for decades of interaction.
Moving on to Section 2, the market reform era.
Deng Xiaoping realized something crucial. To maintain stability, China desperately needed material prosperity. So, he informally let the household responsibility system take root. By decentralizing farming, breaking down that rigid commune system, and letting peasants actually sell their surplus at local free markets, China essentially planted the very first seeds of a market economy. It was a massive success. It solved grain shortages, lifted millions out of poverty, and really eased the public into accepting much broader market reforms down the line.
Building right on that momentum, Beijing set up special economic zones in 4 strategic coastal cities. These zones were specifically designed to operate with free market rules. They offered tax incentives and dropped import duties specifically to attract foreign money. Shenzhen is the perfect example. It went from a rural farming area of 20,000 people into this booming metropolis of millions. These zones became China's absolute primary gateway into global capitalism.
And the explosive result of those policies was just staggering. We're talking about foreign direct investment in China skyrocketing from under $1 billion in 1978 to nearly $30 billion by 1998. Just think about that jump. The global economy was officially pouring in.
Which brings us to Section 3, the WTO economic boom. If we compare the two eras, the pre-WTO period was all about gradual foundational growth, as China kind of learned the ropes from places like Hong Kong and the World Bank. But when China officially joined the World Trade Organization, the dynamic completely flipped. The post-WTO period saw exponential export and GDP growth. Joining the WTO was the ultimate catalyst. It shifted China's economic machinery into an entirely new gear. And the data absolutely backs this up. Econometric studies show that the estimated coefficients for total exports were 4 to 5 times larger in the post-WTO period. Think about what that actually means for a second. WTO accession didn't just boost the total volume of trade, it fundamentally strengthened the multiplier effect of exports on China's overall GDP growth by up to 5 times. But of course, this integration created a really profound dilemma for US businesses. Sure, US multinationals gained incredible access to a booming consumer market and incredibly affordable labor. But the trade-off? Establishing those joint ventures in China risked major technology leakage. And that leakage ultimately made Chinese partner firms, and eventually domestic competitors, significantly more productive through tech transfer, slowly closing the capabilities gap between the two nations.
Let's look at Section 4, Expanding Global Influence.
The geographic scale of the Belt and Road Initiative, or BRI, is just massive. Now, while it was initially framed around east-west transport connectivity, resembling the ancient Silk Road, the BRI has evolved. As tensions with the US started to grow, China pivoted. They started prioritizing regions like Southeast Asia, using the initiative not just for building roads and bridges, but to proactively secure advanced industrial supply chains.
What started as kind of an uncoordinated wave of provincial pet projects morphed into a highly centralized, incredibly effective tool of China's industrial policy. The objectives are clear: create alternative markets for Chinese goods, establish mutually beneficial industrial supply chains, and ultimately boost China's economic security as geopolitical friction with the West intensifies.
On to Section 5, Assertive Diplomacy and Power.
This growing economic confidence birthed the phenomenon known as wolf warrior diplomacy, named after a really popular Chinese action movie. For decades, China followed Deng Xiaoping's low-profile policy of peaceful coexistence. While wolf warrior diplomacy is a sharp departure from that. It's a muscular, highly assertive style. Diplomats now proactively challenge conventional wisdom. They loudly defend China's viewpoint, and they actively push back against Western narratives, often taking directly to social media to reach a global audience.
And this assertiveness, it isn't just limited to rhetoric online. It includes raw economic statecraft. China leverages its massive outbound investments, especially through the Belt and Road Initiative, to exert real geopolitical pressure. Having the ability to withhold or direct massive amounts of capital gives them serious leverage to try and establish new global rules and standards that align with their own interests.
Then, we have to factor in military modernization. While the United States remains a globally dominant military power, there's the sheer geographic reality of the Pacific. It's what strategists call the tyranny of distance, with thousands of miles separating US bases from the Chinese mainland. That distance fundamentally alters regional military parity. In the Indo-Pacific theater, China has rapidly modernized its forces to operate incredibly effectively within its adjacent seas.
And finally, Section 6, the Thucydides Trap.
Let's circle back to that quote from the very beginning of this explainer regarding the Thucydides trap. Also known as power transition theory, this is that historical pattern where the rapid rise of a new power naturally threatens the status quo of an established dominant power. Just like a rising Athens spurred fear in an established Sparta, which led to the Peloponnesian War, the rapid closing of the capabilities gap between the US and China is drastically increasing systemic friction today.
So what does this actually look like in today's boardrooms? Well, it looks like a battle for technological supremacy, right? Especially the race to control the production of semiconductor chips. It looks like the active inshoring or decoupling of major supply chains back to domestic soil. And it looks like competing global infrastructure platforms, like China's new Digital Silk Road project exporting technology standards abroad.
We've journeyed from secret diplomatic flights in the 70s to the fiercely contested technological chessboards we see today. The historical context is undeniable. The economic pendulum has swung. So I'm going to leave you with this crucial question to apply to your own strategic planning. As the dynamic between the US and China continues to evolve, how exactly will your organization navigate the realities of supply chain decoupling and deep market volatility in the shadow of the Thucydides trap?